So I am going to continue on with LIAF, but there will be some significant changes within LIAF. I'm going to go into them later in more detail because I don't want to wait too long before we get Dr. Dean on. But I will tell you, we've restructured to a degree the entire LIF from the state down, and it will impact everybody, but I believe it will impact everybody in a super positive way. One of the things that does is because of COVID, and we've blamed a lot on COVID, and it truly deserves a lot of blame. We did not have formal elections last year, which means we fell out of our stride, out of step. As president, I reappointed everybody whose term was up. So we did everything by the book, but at the same time, it means that all the seats are due now for the Broward chapter, the Dade chapter, and the state. And that is going to mean there will be elections. I was hoping to already have them put together and basically pulled off, but we haven't yet. As you saw in the flyer I sent out in late December, my goal was to have that done by the 17th. Did not accomplish that. It is still coming. That being said, if you are interested in running for any one of the open positions, which again, all positions are open, please send me an email. Well, as soon as today would be nice, so that I can add you to the ballot, and the ballot should be going out this month. We'll have about a full week to vote, and then we'll move forward with the new boards. So I encourage anybody that has some interest. If you have not been on the boards before, there are a board for Broward County, there is a board for Dade, and there is the state board. And I would tell you that I've gotten positive results and positive feedback from everyone who's been on any of those boards. So I strongly recommend it. They're not huge, doesn't take a huge amount of time, but it does take a commitment. And we would ask if you care to make that commitment that you indeed do, because LIF has some big goals for 2022. With the new structure, I'll be moving out of the state president's position to an executive director position, which will mean again that the state president is open, and we're going to go to a new format that more closely follows suit with some of the other associations such as ISA, FMGLA, and such. And we have some really big goals set for 2022 and beyond. So again, I hope you all can find time and join us and help us continue to let LIF grow and be the powerhouse it is. All right, and like I said, we'll get back to that a little later, especially if there are any questions. Richard, the chat box is open?
Yeah.
Correct. So if you have questions, pertaining to that, I would ask that you hold them. I see some people have. Until we get through Dr. Dean's presentation. Just quickly, prior to Dr. Dean's presentation, which you all got the flyer, so you know primarily what it's dealing with, I wanted to steal an idea that Mike Orphanides uses for the tree trimmer portion. And when new tree trimmers are coming in to take their certification, they're given a pre-test just to see what their level of knowledge is. So I said, that sounds like a good idea. So I was going to throw out a couple of pre-test ideas, and Richard and Kevin will monitor the chat box. Let's see how well you all do. So we're basically going to talk about peanuts and legumes in this pre-test. So what is the benefit for soils when planting a legume? We're watching the chat box, and there's 40 people here. So there we go. Nitrogen fixing. Very good, Miss Santiago. I think her dad taught her. Oh, you taught yourself that. Teach that to your father as well, please. They are nitrogen fixing, so that's super important. These are some different terms I would assume you're going to hear during Dr. Dean's presentation. What country produces the most peanuts in the world? No Googling. I'm assuming this just rolls off people's, you all must know this.
Somewhere in South America.
We got to, the locals are saying America and South America, and the locals are wrong. So we need some influence from the audience here.
Antarctica.
I mean, there's only 7 continents.
What country?
Not country.
Yeah, but is it in South America was my question.
Oh,
So I'm gonna have to call a strike on this one.
Oh, somebody said China.
Oh, who was Robert Sunshine came in right at the end. He came in capital letters. So China, absolutely, that's correct. And in doing a little bit of looking today, I see China produces 17.99 million metric tons of peanuts. U.S. lags sorely behind. It's fourth with 2.78, slightly ahead of the Sudan at 2.77 million metric tons. Still a lot of peanuts, but nowhere close to what is being grown in China. I did not know this until I started reading some of the answers, and it did make sense. There are 4, did I say varieties? What are the 4 types of peanuts? Terrell, I know you're out there, and I know you have peanut butter every day for lunch. So you
dry roasted, lightly salted, plain.
Please do not listen to the yes.
No.
Honey roasted, I'm sorry.
Boiled. Oh, also you leave the skins on.
Sorry, Elaine. Nice to see you, Mr. Nero, but I'm sorry, that isn't it either. You'll know some of them. There's one even named after one of the states of the United States, and it's not Missouri. I can tell you that. There's no such thing as the Missouri peanut.
Yes, there are. They grow peanuts in Missouri now.
Well.
See, we live. That's why we have you on. We're learning. No one knows the largest, the one that's most grown. I had not heard of, but the others I'm sure you've heard of. Where's if I say that, where's Tech? What's their logo? Where are the Hokies from? No football followers. Jimmy Carter may know. Thank you, Sandy Benton. I'm sure he does. Dr. Dean, you want to bail out this group?
Well, there's 4 market types. There's Virginias, which we call the in-shells or the ballparks, and they're mostly grown in the Virginia, Carolina region, and some in Texas. The biggest type is the runners, which almost entirely go to peanut butter, and they are grown in Georgia's the biggest state, Florida, and of course Texas. Spanish are small, usually red skin peanuts are the Spanish type. They're very sweet, and they're mostly grown in Oklahoma and Texas. And then the last one is Valencia, which is only about 3% of the crop, grown almost exclusively in New Mexico. That's almost the only thing they grow. And then some in Georgia. Valencias are kind of popular for the boiled peanut product.
And thank you. And that's exactly what some of mine showed, that the runner was 80% of the U.S. crop, and mostly used for peanut butter and confections. The Virginia, which they were calling the gourmet of peanuts, and as you said, the ballpark peanuts. I think we've all had enjoyed several of those. Spanish are the Redskins, which have a higher oil content, and the Valencia. Oh no, I call it Valencia. It's not really Valencia, is it?
Yeah, the Valencias, there'll be like 3 or 4 peanuts in the pod. It's a long skinny pod.
And was used for boiled peanuts. So Elaine, when you said boiled.
And a little, I think California grows a little bit of them now because that's about the only place that's growing organics.
I think you wrote this that I got these from, because that's exactly what it said. It's the ones that are used for the all-natural organic peanut butter. All right, here's a little trickier one, not for Dr. Dean, but for the rest of you. Why is it a good idea for people to fry their Thanksgiving turkey in peanut oil? What's the advantage? Are you peanut fryers? Yeah, that could do it. Not for those people that have peanut allergies and secretly impact theirs.
Good for that.
That's close. Greg, greeting Greg, ex-FPL. Good Facts is fairly close. What I came up with, it says that the oil can be heated to a very high temperature of 450 degrees before it smokes, which is higher than other oils. So there you go, higher boiling content. Good job, Norman. So it cooks.
It's also very popular for frying seafood because it has that nutty flavor that complements fried seafood.
So, and it kind of said that it takes on less, that less oil gets in, I guess, because the food fries faster. So it's not as quote oily or greasy. It fries quicker because of the higher temperature.
Five Guys uses all.
All right, last question before I turn this over to Dr. Dean. So first introduced in Brazil in 1936, what landscape plant has the scientific name, which I'm going to mess up, but Arachis glabra, according to Arachis glabra. See all our knowledgeable landscape people jumping right on this.
This is a big thing for Florida, so y'all
Yes, it
should know
is.
that.
Can you repeat that? Yes, I can, Greg.
She's gonna try.
So the first introduced in Brazil in 1936, what landscape plant has the botanical name Arachis, Arachis, last Glabrata? Perennial peanut. Is that Laura Dooley with Blue Red?
Great color. Oh, it was Lord Julie, hold on.
Good job, Laura.
Laura
Good
beat
job.
him by a split
Oh, wait,
second.
hold on. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Laura beat him by a
Laura
split
Laura
second.
beat you. So according to UFIFA's website, it said that the plant, the perennial peanut, has no insects, disease, or nematode pests have been identified that cause economic loss. It is not spread into natural areas or become a nuisance plant. It has a high resistance to drought and to pest and minimum fertilizer requirements. So maybe it's a bit of an underutilized plant that we need to consider increasing or using more in our landscape. And it is a very nice little ground cover. Okay, we all did fairly well. We did have to rely on our professional to bail us out some, but you all did pretty well. So I would like to go ahead and start and introduce Dr. Dean. So Dr. Lisa Dean received her PhD from North Carolina State University, her master's in food science and nutrition from the University of Delaware, and her BS in chemistry from Towson State University. Since 2005, she's been a USDA research technologist and professor at North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Dr. Dean's research includes peanut quality and flavor, food lipid chemistry, identification and validation of small bioactive compounds from all parts of the peanut plant. Dr. Dean, I thank you very much for speaking to the group today. Kevin, if you want to take us off, we'll turn it over to you. I should ask Dr. Dean, there will be some questions possibly rolling in. Do you want us to save them for the end, ask as they get coming? How would you like them handled?
That's really up to you. I save space at the end for questions, so I'm ready to handle them.
Then that's exactly what we'll do. We'll turn it over to you when you are done. Let us know, and any questions that are accumulated, we'll ask you at the end.
Okay, I'm going to, if I can, turn off my video to save some bandwidth. Everyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, as the introduction said, I'm Lisa Dean. I'm a research food technologist with the USDA Agricultural Research Service. And our agency is totally concerned with research in all areas related to agriculture, including human food, animal feed, and biomass production. We don't have any regulatory duties. And my unit is the Food Science and Market Quality and Handling Research Unit, which is embedded in the Department of Food, Bioprocessing, and Nutritional Sciences at North Carolina State University. So I also have an appointment as a research professor with the university. And I have been asked to talk today about applications of waste materials that result from food processing operations. So why is food processing waste a problem? Well, where there's over 1 trillion pounds of crops are grown right here in the USA every year, but only about a third of that ends up as edible food. And there are a variety of crops that are imported but are processed here in large quantities, and that includes cocoa and coffee. And these all result in unusable material that has no food value. There's limitations to how much you can incorporate into animal feed, and the processing plants often incur a cost of disposal, such as a tipping fee for a landfill. So some examples of food processing waste that I'm going to talk about are, of course, peanut shells, coffee grounds, tea leaves, grape pomace, cocoa hulls, and fruit and vegetable peels. So recently there's been increasing interest in finding applications for these types of materials to increase the value of the crop by using the waste as well as the edible portion. There's climate awareness. If you're dumping material, large amounts of organic material into landfills, that results in the material decomposing and creating methane gas. The sustainability of the crop is dependent on using all parts of it. We have to be concerned with land usage as we start to lose some of our agricultural acreage for various reasons. And consumers are very interested in consuming products or buying products that are made with natural ingredients. As a food technologist with the ARS, my commodity of research is peanuts. So I'm going to go into depth about them. And as you already heard, that globally the peanut crop amounted to 51 million metric tons in 2021. The United States produced about 3 million metric tons, with 15% of that being grown in Florida. And in addition to the peanut kernels, which are the reason for the production, other materials are produced. Inedible peanuts are those that are too small, misshapen, aflatoxin contaminated, or otherwise unsuitable for consumption. And this material is designated as crush and is sold for peanut oil production. Other components are the shells and the testa or the peanut skins. So the shell portion composes about 20 to 25% of the total weight of the seed, and it has been used to produce biomass pellets for stoves and for biochar. And they are also ground and added to dairy cattle feed for roughage. The material can be composited to make a wood product, and some of you may already be using it as landscape mulch. And we have used it here in some experiments to extract heavy metals from wastewater. So it has potential for wastewater abatement as well. So that leaves the peanut testa, or more commonly, the redskins. That's that paper-like substance that surrounds the peanut seed or the kernel inside the shell. And this composes about 3% of the total weight. And here in America, over 50% of the peanuts produced are made into peanut butter. The peanuts are shelled, and then the skins are removed before the peanuts are roasted. So this leaves hundreds of thousands of pounds of this material that has no food value. So bear with me for a little while I describe to you some of our work with trying to make a functional food ingredient using peanut skins. You may have heard that eating dark chocolate is considered healthier than eating milk chocolate. And this is because dark chocolate is less processed and naturally contains compounds that are known as flavonols, or more commonly as tannins when they're polymerized together. And these compounds have powers such as antioxidant activity, which can reduce free radical damage that is part of cell aging. They can also dilate blood vessels, which reduces blood pressure. And consumption of these compounds can reduce the body's response to increases in blood sugar. Cocoa contains about 6 to 8% of these compounds, whereas peanut skins contain about 15%. So there are a variety of chocolate products that are available on the market based on this concept. And these products have higher levels of cocoa than conventional chocolate products. Using higher levels of cocoa increases the ingredient cost of the product, as well as having a significant impact on flavor. Those active compounds are known for their bitter flavor and astringent mouthfeel, and that's due to the activation of the taste receptors that determine bitterness that are located in the epithelial of the tongue and the palate. The texture of the product is also affected by the level of cocoa present. The higher the amount, the more brittle the texture and the slower the melting in the mouth. So peanut skins have been used in small quantities in animal feed, but the presence of those tannic compounds restricts the amount that can be added. The bitterness can cause the animals to eat less feed, and the compounds can bind up proteins in the animal's digestive system, making them unavailable for the animal's nutrition. So the animals may actually start to lose weight if too much material of this type is in their diet. But we found that we can remove those compounds, leaving the bulk of the peanut skins for animal feed that no longer have bitter flavor but are still nutritious. So in my little chart here, what I'm showing you is the milled skins, which are just peanut skins that are ground up and added to the feed, compared to the insolubles, which is the material left over after we remove the bitter compounds. And from that, you can see that the nutritional components, the fat, the protein, and the fiber for the animal are actually increased a little by removing that material. And so that the material is just as nutritious, but that bitterness and protein binding problem is gone. The tannins were extracted out of the peanuts using a mixture of ethanol and water so that the material would be food grade. The ethanol was evaporated away, and the slurry of the compounds in water was spray dried in just the same way that milk is spray dried to make powdered milk. We then had a powder that we could add to other foods to give them the health benefits of the tannins. And since we are dealing with peanuts, we have to always remember that peanuts are serious allergens. And although we tested our peanut skin powder and it was negative for peanut allergens, we have been very careful not to add it to any foods that consumers would not associate with peanuts. We fortified peanut butter and we added it to chocolate. And in addition, we made some flavored coatings that we used for peanuts. So we tested our products to determine how consumers would accept them. So as I said before, the compounds are very bitter. So one trick that we did was we actually encapsulated the peanut powder into maltodextrin, which is a type of sugar that is usually prepared from corn that is used to make food products. So you'll often see on the label of many processed foods maltodextrin listed as an ingredient. This doing this encapsulation gave us a free-flowing powder that was easy to handle, but the maltodextrin doesn't add any real flavor of its own. And when we added this material to peanut butter, we had our train panel evaluate the material. Our train panel is a group of employees that we have in our unit that are trained to evaluate the flavor of peanut products. And what we found was the bitterness did not increase as high as we predicted it would be. And that was mainly because the maltodextrin was slowing the interaction of the compounds with the bitter receptors on the tongue. And so a more easily understood application was to ask some untrained consumers to taste milk chocolate pieces that had the peanut skin powder added to them. So we recruited a group of people, and the only requirement for being on to do this test was, are you a consumer of milk chocolate? We didn't sort them according to sex or age, although almost everyone that signed up to do this was an adult. That was just of the nature of being here at North Carolina State University. We did not go out and try and recruit children to do this. We started with 3 pieces of chocolate, and one piece had peanut skin powder added to it. So the question that we asked the consumer was, here's 3 pieces of chocolate. Does any piece taste different from the others? If so, which one? We didn't ask them, do you like it or not like it? You know, does it taste bad? Just, is it different? That's the only question we asked them. And our results were that on the chart, frequency is the number of panelists that picked out the different piece. And we just kept increasing the amount of peanut skin powder into each set of 3 and asked the same question. And this test is called the best estimate. At very low levels, and or else these were people who were just lucky guessers. But for most of our consumers, they could not detect that there was anything added to the chocolate, or it didn't taste different until we were over 0.9% of the additive. So if we compared the level of what was added in terms of antioxidant activity, and that's what's on the y-axis here, we used a test that measures chemical antioxidant activity on the chocolate pieces. And on the y-axis is the percent of the powder that was added to the chocolate. What we found is that our consumers could not tell anything was different about the chocolate until we were above that antioxidant activity that is seen in dark chocolate. So this told us that we could add this bioactivity to milk chocolate without affecting the flavor or the texture. And consumers are known to prefer milk chocolate to dark chocolate because the flavor is milder and that texture is smoother and melts easily in the mouth. So using this essentially food processing waste material, people can enjoy milk chocolate and have the same benefits as dark chocolate using this ingredient. And producers also now have a way to use the waste material rather than more expensive cocoa in making these types of products. So I'm going to go through and just briefly talk about some other waste streams. uh, uh, coffee grounds are one of the biggest ones. Your average cup of coffee is going to yield 11 grams of spent grounds. And so that equals 22 billion pounds in the USA alone. Coffee oil can be extracted from the grounds and used as a biofuel. And then that biomass left over can be burned for fuel. There's a product called coffee logs, which is a synthetic wood that is made from coffee grounds and used for sold as fireplace logs. And as a fertilizer, coffee grounds are a source of potassium and nitrogen. In this picture here, this is a product called Cafe Form. It's made in Europe, and it's paper that is made from coffee grounds and then is molded into food service items that are now biodegradable. Another waste product from the coffee bean is the coffee chaff, which is actually this dried skins of the beans themselves. And it kind of has like a straw-like texture, and it's light in color. And the Ford Motor Company has partnered with McDonald's to use this material as a replacement for talc in the plastic that they used for headlight housings that's light in color for the reflectivity. And using this material reduces the need for mining talc. It's mixed with plastic polymers to form the finished product, but you still are creating a plastic that is not totally biodegradable. Tea production results in a waste material that's referred to as tea debris, and it comes from commercial production of tea in the US and other places around the world. It's the dust from the processing equipment. It includes stems and unacceptable material. Maybe some of the leaves are damaged or there's other organic material mixed in. And it's a source of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. It's made into biofuel or biochar. They actually make some paper products out of it. It can be used as a non-toxic desiccant to remove moisture, and also for wastewater remediation in the same way, the peanut shells to remove heavy metals from the water. Grape pumice is the material that remains after the juice has been expressed from the fruit. And in this picture that I have here, you can see that this is the material that came from a winery in California, and that's a large amount of this material that's being produced, so much that they're using large earth moving equipment to handle the amounts from this commercial winery. So California alone produces about 500,000 pounds of grape pumice every year. And grape pumice has been highly studied as a source of a variety of compounds. And what it includes the skins, the seeds, and the stalks from the grape. Isolates of these compounds are often used in a variety of nutritional or nutraceutical products. It contains vitamins, antioxidant materials. You may have heard of resveratrol, which is an anti-aging compound that's sold as a nutraceutical. And grapeseed oil is a high quality salad oil that is essentially from those leftover seeds. Cocoa waste is kind of a different story. The beans are processed for chocolate and cocoa, and results in the waste material of the husks, the skins, and the shells in the majority. And the United States actually imports this waste material mainly from Africa, but also from Europe, from cocoa and chocolate manufacturing plants in Europe. And many of you are probably already familiar with using it as landscape mulch. A new product that I'm showing here on the left side is biodegradable carryout boxes or to-go boxes for food. And the material has also been made into paper. Fruit and vegetable peels are the waste material from a variety of food processing operations such as canneries, frozen food products, and juice manufacturing. Excuse me. As an example, I'm using citrus peel, which contains a range of compounds that can be recovered and used. Citrus oils are used for aroma in essential oils or for soaps and cosmetics. They're also an important source of natural flavor compounds. An example is in China, there are small local extractors that will actually purchase citrus peels from the households in the area. And that gives the local people a small income, and the extractors then sell these important flavor compounds to large companies such as PepsiCo. Pectin is used as a gelling agent in a lot of foods such as jams and jellies, and that's recovered from the peels. And there are also some sugars that can be used. And in the photograph that I have here, this is the cellulose that is recovered from citrus peels. Normally cellulose that's used to make paper is taken from processed from trees, especially pine trees. But this material is food grade, and it can be used as a bulking agent in certain foods because humans cannot digest cellulose. So it's used in things like your Slim Fast drinks, which give you that full feeling, but because you can't digest it, there's no calories from it. So there are many examples that we could discuss here, but what are the barriers that keep these and other ideas from expanding and becoming routine and practical? A consistent supply is needed by the end users. So in some cases, the amount of material may not always be available. Many crops are seasonal. And the other is transportation. The material needs to be transported from the place of production to the recycle or to the value-added production site, which adds to the cost. And as with anything, cost is the driver. So if the cost of the material is too much for the new product, it's not considered practical. So that's what I have to talk about today. And here's my contact information in case anybody wants to continue the conversation, but I'm open to questions now.
Okay. Kevin, you got?
You're good to go?
All right, we got, yep,
Oh.
you got to call it
Ah, yeah.
question. Easy. So the first one was from Richard, who's here in the room. Go ahead, Richard, you can ask your own question.
No, I heard you said you guys were burning off the ethanol. Is it possible instead of burning it off, it could be extracted, or is that not possible based on the process?
The ethanol, when we make the peanut skin powder,
Yeah.
we just evaporate it.
There's
And
no
we
way that-
actually recover it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, we recover it and we reuse it.
Okay. Okay.
And that, that's important for the price point, because that's one of the costs of doing the extraction is buying the ethanol. So if we can recycle it and reuse it, that's a cost savings.
Cool. That was my question.
And Dr. D, what is I'm gonna say it wrong, but it's a phytotoxin?
Oh, a flavanol?
No,
Is that your question?
phytotoxin, it said, F-L-A-T.
Oh, aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is a fungal metabolite that comes from infection by aspergillus, and it naturally occurs. It's in the soil, and when you have especially a very dry year, the toxin is expressed and your food is contaminated. It's seen in corn. Peanuts are sometimes a problem, and if the levels are too high, above 20 parts per billion, you can't use that for human food. So it's not anything that can really be controlled. It's, again, it seems to occur when you have drought years, and it kind of comes in cycles. And sometimes you'll have a bad year, and then other years it won't be a problem. But peanuts are always tested for it before they're used for food.
20 parts per billion?
Per billion for human food. It's even lower for dairy cattle. And in Europe, it's very low. It's like 3 parts per billion in Europe. So that causes a lot of problems with US peanut producers doing their importing into Europe.
But most people in our association are involved somehow in the landscape end, as our name would imply. And in the landscape industry, especially like Kevin that does a fair amount of maintenance, we generate a tremendous amount of waste products. And as you said, the tipping fees that they undergo and the tree trimming, grass breaks down fairly fast, but when you get into the higher level plants, trees, the shrubs, the time to break down is too long for these individual companies to hold on to them. So it's interesting with research like yours that's trying to find uses for those byproducts. We're hoping that in the landscape industry, some of the same could be done because we generate so much. Now the landfills, I don't know, where do you have to take them, Kevin? Recycling places?
Yeah.
Because landfills, wow, for 15 years haven't been able to take them. They don't want them in the waste stream. The horticultural products aren't wanted in the waste stream. So they're kind of the part we need to find something to do. We generate a lot of them, especially down here in Florida and South Florida. 365 days a year, the grass is growing and they're mowing to some degree, and a tremendous amount of byproducts. So it's super interesting seeing the work that you and your staff are doing with some of the byproducts and turning them into usable items and repurposing them throughout the process.
Yeah, I would hope that that's where people that are creating biochar, which is used to add back to the soil, and even for biofuels, that they would take advantage of a lot of these things, especially since here in America we cut trees to make wood pellets that we sell to Europe. So if there was some way to incorporate your type of waste stream into that seemed to me would be very environmentally friendly.
It's there actually was a cooperative down here once upon a time that the intent was making biofuels and to collect the debris. The problem was that the debris that we were generating or that was available to be made into these pellets did not burn at a high enough, I guess, BTU for it to generate whatever energy was required. So it was a great idea. There were a lot of landscape companies like ours. There may well be some people on this call who were involved in that, but it ultimately did not work because the product was not doing the thing it needed to do.
Yeah, the moisture levels were too high and probably wasn't sappy enough.
That may well be.
We also got into a bit of a problem, contamination, as you're saying, especially with the ability to test things out to parts per billion. When I was involved with waste management, we ran into problems in contamination. We would we were recycling, and the wood products that came off, we were selling to the sugar manufacturers out in Belle Glade. And they were very finicky about the wood that came in. While they needed a tremendous amount of energy as part of the processing of the sugar cane, and we were basically willing to give it to them because it was a byproduct, and they'd already made their money on the tipping fee. It was like, hey, you can have it. So that all worked well. But when you got any kind of contaminants like pressure treated lumber in there, creosote, those kind of things, the sugar companies just went through the roof.
And that's a problem that peanut has with using the plant waste for animal feed or for hay, is we have to spray so much for pesticides, especially for the rotation. If we have to, peanuts are often grown behind corn, and the corn has been sprayed for borer worms, the peanuts will pick up that, and you can't use it for animal feed, especially for horse hay, which is what probably a lot of your perennial peanut goes to. Horse hay is, you can't use it if it's contaminated with certain pesticides. And again, it goes to how well we can test now, the levels that we can test at. We're picking up things that we in the past would not have even been noticed.
Agreed. I found an interesting website. It's Feedopedia. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I was on like Wikipedia, but it was Feedopedia. Yeah. And because it's the only place I could find the breakdown of what percentage of the peanut actually was usable. And according to them, the skin is 2 to 3% of the nut. So the nut is 71 to 79%. And then the skin is 2 to 3%, the kernel is 69 to 73, and the germ was 2 to 3%. So you're even in peanuts, there's the bulk of it is certainly going to usable products, but there is a lot of byproduct generated and a lot of acres grown. So there's a lot of materials out there.
Yeah. And, you know, people often say, oh, animal feed, but the problem with animal feed is people don't pay a lot for it. And you don't want to be growing a high quality product like peanut and have to sell it for animal feed. You know, you want to make sure you have your markets to sell it for human food. So that's why we're really conscious about maintaining our European markets, and that peanuts, there's no plans whatsoever to make peanuts GMO because Europeans will not buy them. So we don't even want to think about that.
Really?
Yeah.
I also found, according to the National Peanut Board, that the peanut shells themselves, some of the things they were citing their use of, which like kitty litter. I thought that was interesting. Kitty litter combined with baking soda. Shipping peanuts, which if you've ever been involved in the waste industry or opened many presents at Christmas time, shipping peanuts are some of the most annoying things in the world.
Yeah.
Blown around, they never biodegrade, and I thought that was pretty clever to say, well, we'll just put real nut shells in there.
Well, the other thing about, you know, using these things is you have to worry about insect infestation, and rats love to eat these kinds of things. So, you know, you don't want to get too much of these kind of things into your shipping system. For instance, you used to be able to get furniture shipped from China that was packed in popcorn, real popcorn. And you can imagine that rats would really enjoy that. So that's why we haven't been able to get rid of the styrofoam peanut just yet, but they do also make some of that material from corn, so that if you put it in water, it dissolves.
Right.
Some of the chemical companies actually use that to a great degree.
One of the ones I saw also that I found interesting said peanuts only use 3.2 gallons to produce an ounce of shelled nuts, where
Yeah.
almonds are using 28.7 gallons. And
Yes, that
pistachios,
plays into the whole sustainability thing, that peanuts are much more sustainable than tree nuts because it takes less water to grow them.
I see, I mean, the almonds, I guess the majority of almonds are produced in California. And I've seen quite a concerted effort by the almond growers to buffer that, because I think they're getting a lot of grief as there's a water shortage in the West, that they're kind of a water hog. And I know they put a great deal of PR into, hey, we're not as water intensive as it sounds like we are.
Yeah, but I mean, with California, it's you say, oh, what if we grew them some other places? But they have the climate for the crop. But tree nuts are it just takes more water to grow a tree than a legume plant.
Very much. Well, one last one I've got to ask, but before I let you go, because I got from the USDA, I did get a note about sun butter.
Yes,
You
that's
were talking about-
sunflower.
Yeah, and it was touting some of the benefits. Actually, it was touting it against peanut butter, saying a third less saturated fat, same proteins, and no trans fats. And I actually found some. It's available at one of the local supermarkets down here. It was very good. It was very good.
The other advantage of sun butter is since it's not peanut, it's not allergenic. So that's a big selling point for that. I never really appreciated the flavor of it so much compared to peanut butter. And the whole trans fat issue is one of the problems with peanut butter is it separates, the oil comes off. So the way people like Jiffy and Skippy and Jif get around that is they add a small amount of hydrogenated vegetable oil to the product to keep everything together. And that's where the trans fatty acids come from, not from the peanuts, not from peanut oil. It's from that little bit of hydrogenated soy oil that's added to keep everything together. But it's very, very low levels. But because it's there, it has to be labeled. So when people think about trans fats, they always say, oh, peanut butter trans fat, but the levels are so low that it's not like, cookies or crackers that they need a stiff fat to make. But that's kind of one of the downsides of peanut butter is they have to label that tiny amount that they add just to keep it together. And to get around that, buy Smucker's Natural, buy a natural peanut butter. But the trick is store it upside down.
Yes.
Okay.
That way you'll never have to.
Well, and I did see that one of the drawbacks to the sun butter was that if you use it in cooking, it reacts with the baking soda and will turn your product green, so your cookies come out green.
That's probably means that there's still chlorophyll in the oil that there wouldn't be in peanuts.
That's exactly right. That's what they said.
You have to remember peanuts grow underground, and it's not the root of the plant, it's the seed, and it's underground. So it's not like sunflower that's out there in the sunlight building up chlorophyll.
Good point. That's what it said, and it even told the name of the acid that's called, but I was not going to botch that. Botch that up by saying it. Well, Dr. Bean, I appreciate your taking time to speak with us very much. Super informative. Thank you, and we appreciate it. If there's ever anything that landscape inspectors can do for you, feel free to reach out to us.
All right. Well, thank you for the invitation, and we're always trying to get the word out for USA Peanuts, the best peanuts in the world. Even though we're not the biggest grower, as you did in your quiz, we have done some consumer studies around the world, and USA Peanuts have the best flavors. So by US.
Great. Thank you again. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye. Okay, so to everyone else, would you let Mark in, please?
Yeah. Late people.
Yeah. Okay, a couple things we before we roll on to Mike, I'm gonna find Mike on there and make Mike a co-host. And while we're waiting a bit for that transition, again, as I alluded to prior to Dr. Dean's presentation, I've seen some questions on it. As far as the LIF coming in to 2022, all positions are open. So Broward Board, Dade Board, and the State Board, because we had that layover from the COVID year, we're in the second part of the cycle. All positions are open. So if you have any interest, send to me an email. As I said at the very beginning, since I have retired earlier this month, I'm no longer with the City of Sunrise. That address, wburns@sunrisefl.gov, was frozen. I'm not sure exactly what the city did with it, but emails no longer go through. I won't certainly receive them, nor will Peggy receive them. So please, I'll give you my personal email address, which is 3 letters, BHS TURF @yahoo.com. Richard, you have something with that?
We'll make him an email address at the domain and get it out to everybody.
That will help as well. So feel free to reach out to me at that personal email. If you've been sending anything to the city and are a little irritated that I have not gotten back to you.
Oh, it's bouncing back. So.
Yes, I'm glad to say they're bouncing. I sent some a while ago just to figure out where they were because speakers couldn't get in touch with me and I lost a speaker and all kinds of stuff. And the city hasn't gotten back to me yet either. So we will make it, but it's going to take a little bit of change. So at this point, Richard, if you'll make Mike Orphanides.
I asked him to unmute. I think he's unmuted, unfortunately.
I'm unmuted, but I would like to be able to be seen.
And
Roy,
Roy,
is you or is he live?
I think Kevin's got that. May take a second because the one computer is up. Roy, Delroy should be out there as well. Mike, have you seen him?
Yes, Roy's in the house.
Good. Is there anybody else going to join, or just you two at this point?
Right.
That was neither or. It was not a. You got to tell me. So it's just going to be Roy and you.
Yep, as far as I'm aware of. Yep, and that's enough. I think we can get the message across. So I don't know. We have maybe 15, 20 minutes, William, to discuss this.
Correct. You can run a little bit longer because what I'll do is I've got one other topic afterwards, but I can moderate that some. So
okay.
I didn't know that.
All right. Well,
go ahead. Yeah, I would say go ahead, Mike.
I got it.
I didn't know. So you're going to.
Let me get the co-host. That was my fault. I didn't.
All right, Mike, you're a co-host.
hello. Okay, great.
I got it.
If you would also, Richard, do the same for Roy. So Roy can be seen and speak. So I want to welcome everybody to the 2022. Wow, another new year here already. The first month almost shot. Hard to believe. So yeah, we're really busy here at the Extension office. I am trying to get a position filled. I have an opening for a program assistant to work alongside of myself and Donna, who's part-time now. And I'm looking for somebody with a horticulture background, and it's a full-time position. So, excuse me, quite frankly, it's been rough. We've had to post 3 times and still don't have a very good slate of candidates. So if you know somebody that's interested in teaching and working alongside with some of the research and demonstration things we've got going here at UF-IFAS, please get a hold of me, let me know. So with the new year, we got news that what we had feared was going to really happen. Recent action by our state legislature in Tallahassee has preempted local jurisdictions, local governments, counties, municipalities, and so forth from requiring licensing of certain occupations. And unfortunately for us tree people, here we go, another hit again. It affects tree trimming. So I think beginning in December, excuse me, and Roy, chime in please here as you feel the need. Letters were sent out by the Building Code Services Department Division in Broward County Government, which Roy Aiken is affiliated with, basically announcing to our licensees that the tree trimmer licensing ordinance in Broward County would sunset effective July 1st, 2023, not 2022, but 2023. And as such, that means you would no longer require the company would no, or an individual would no longer need a license to trim trees for hire in Broward County. If a company, as I understand it, needs to renew in 2022, then it's business as usual. They still need to attend the class. The classes that we have here, submit their paperwork, their documentation, and all of that. For 2022 renewals. So if you renewed in 2020 and did not renew in 2021, then you still need to come through the process and get renewed. If you renewed last year, however, and Roy here, correct me if I'm wrong, then you do not need to renew your tree trimmer license. Roy, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, that is correct. You know, the license would be in effect till July of 2023.
Okay.
That's the effective date of the license no longer be needed as the state mandated. I don't know if I didn't hear if you had tell them that the statute that they came out with that preempted these license, HD 735. That is the law that they came out with, and you know, it's not just affecting tree trimmers; it's also
Right.
affecting some of our you know, contractors' license that we issued. You know, so you know, they have been trying to do this for years. It's just that during the pandemic, with no one to oppose them, they passed it, you know, and you know, we only heard about it after it was done.
So, so I guess, you know, and I've been getting calls, quite a few questions about such things as, you know, well, do we still need to come to class? And, you know, the answer, as far as I'm aware of, would be if you need to renew your people to stay current in 2022, then you do need to send them to class. Which brings up a question. We were, you know, the renewals on the tree trimmer certification have typically been, as was the license, a 2-year deal. So, and Roy, I know you and I were still having some continuing conversations about putting, you know, the end date on the tree trimmer certification card. Excuse me. Can we agree that the end of the certification would be July 1st, 2023? Doesn't seem to be much of a benefit of going beyond that.
Correct. That would be the you know, the required date.
Okay.
You know, because up until that date, you know, they still need it.
Right.
After that, they won't. So
Roy, if a company renewed in 2021, but they have people on their payroll whose certification, their training certification expires this year, they would still need to come back to class?
I mean, they would still need to have an up-to-date certification. I mean, because, you know, if they're going to continue to trim, even though the license is up to date, if their certification is not, then they would be considered, you know, not a valid you know, certificate holder.
Okay, so I'm thinking of the people in the field in the cities that are tasked with enforcing the, you know, all of this. If they come across a company that renewed last year, has a current valid license, but they have, you know, what's supposed to be one trained person per job site at all times, if that person on that job site cannot produce a current training certificate, which of course is a laminated little card that we give them upon successful completion, then they would need to come back to class here. Even though they renewed the license last year, they also need to keep up the training certificate, correct?
That's correct. I mean, that's always been, that's the way the law is as it stands today. I mean, like I say, nothing changes until July of 2023.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to be crystal clear with everybody about that because we've had a lot of questions. There was also a question, and maybe this is a premature one, but for companies, Roy, that are going to be renewing in 2022, would there be any prorating of the licensing fee?
That's under discussion, and that is the plan. We're just trying to figure out how we're going to go about doing that, but that is the plan. Yes, we're not, going to charge them the full price of something that you're not going to have the benefit of.
Okay, because a lot of times we get people coming to the classes and then they want to know more about the license and the renewal and how to do it and what the fee is, and so we don't want to be giving them, any wrong information kind of thing. So you guys will be getting
Yeah,
back.
I was just talking to the mayors and him, yesterday, day before, about that, and that's we're going over looking to see whose license is going to be up for renewal, and those people are going to be yes, their license will be prorated.
Okay, interesting. Good to know. So I have some thoughts and some questions for the city people, and then a proposal for post 2023, post July 1st, 2023. But before we get into that, I guess I'd like to open it up, and we have Roy here to answer any questions regarding licensing that you all might have. So now would be your opportunity, guys.
Roy, it's William Burns. Roy, you alluded quickly to some of the other groups that are impacted by this new Florida statute. Could you, who specifically, I mean, it hits tree trimming broadside. What other groups are impacted by this for the county?
It also hit, for instance, liquid petroleum. We no longer can issue licensure for that. Flooring is another one. Painting is another one. Carpentry. It's a list. All of them, just about all of our engineer based license, which deals with surfacing, just about all of those are gone. So it's quite a bit. The only ones that really didn't really affect in terms of the discipline is electrical. Electrical didn't, other than a few of the license that we had, like from years ago, which you might have one or two of those licenses today. Electrical didn't really get, and plumbing, those two disciplines didn't really get affected too much by this law. But the general trade, the engineering, the tree trimmers, liquid petroleum, those trades really got hit pretty hard.
Roy, when you say liquid petroleum, what do you mean specifically, for example?
Like the people that go out and do LP gas, there's all those companies were licensed through the county.
Wow.
Even though they might have a state license, they still had to get another license from the county to operate within the county. So now it won't, that license doesn't exist anymore.
Well, let me ask a follow-up to mine, and thank you for telling us some of the other companies. Did the other ones that are impacted, like liquid petroleum and the other ones you alluded to, was there a training mechanism required by the county for any part of that license, or was it just a pay a fee, get the license?
It's not, no, that those licenses, they have to take a test. All of our licenses are, on the construction side, they have to take a written test. So, all those people that gone through and took those tests and got those licenses, now in effect, come July of next year, those licenses are no longer valid.
So it was more than just, tree trimming, because what Mike's group has put together is certainly based on education. I mean, that was the whole crux of it. It didn't generate much money for Mike. It wasn't that kind of a fundraising effect, but it was indeed to educate the tree trimmers who are out there. So liquid petroleum and others were doing some kind of formal education as well to what? To the driver, how to pump it?
They would have to test to show their competence within the trade that they're performing, like all of the licenses that are going away, they had a specific scope, so they would have to be competent in that scope that is being offered, for that trade. So they would test for the trade specifically, and also there's a business side, that they also had to pass. So it was two tests, the trade and business.
Could you allude or elaborate on the business? I'm not sure what you mean by business side.
Business meaning that, there's a test that they have to, know about workman's comp. They had to know about, the taxes, some of the how to run a business, those type of things. That was a part, just like any of the other general contractor license. All of them have to take that test in addition to the trade portion. A general contractor don't just take the trade and he get the license. There's a business side to it that they have to take also.
Roy, did this legislation wipe out OCT licenses as well, or just more specific to the various industries?
I think it's something there. I don't know specifically if they had a license, but I know that they had some issues. I'm not sure if it's tow truck or one of those. There's some impact in that section also.
Wow. I guess I'd just like to say, if you think this is progress, maybe let your state legislator know how you feel about it. I've certainly had numerous conversations with folks that I know are not happy about it. But it is what it is. And, moving forward, I guess I'm, having been in the shoes of a landscape inspector, urban forester that, was hired to, uphold the Broward County Tree Preservation and Abuse Ordinance, which I want to make clear is still on the books. They haven't eliminated that yet. So you guys in the cities now are going to have to be able to uphold the Tree Preservation and Abuse Ordinance with a new army of folks that are going to be out there potentially trimming trees with very little training. I've already seen people that are working for maintenance companies doing tree trimming, thinking they don't need a license. I'm sure you'll have some handymen, some pool guys. And so the question becomes, how does the city respond when these folks knowingly or unknowingly commit tree abuse? What recourse do you have? I suppose you can shut down the job. Perhaps you can fine them, send them to a special master. You won't have the county, as I understand it, back in terms of the tree trimmer licensing. I was curious as to what your thoughts are for, how you're going to deal with this potentially significant component of untrained people out there working on trimming our tree canopy.
Well, I know that the cities, when it comes to enforcing the code, in their cities in relation to the tree and landscape, the violation is going to go to the property owner. Now that the property owner going to have to make sure that the person who's cutting their tree have some knowledge of it, not dependent on now the county presenting a license to someone that can show them to say, okay, I'm qualified. So unfortunately, the homeowner is going to be the one to bear the burden of this.
That's a really big stretch. They're not going to have any documentation, any ability to prove that, because we've lost this significant component. So I think you guys in the cities are going to really have a lot to deal with, a lot on your hands. And to that end, I guess I was talking with Sharon Balmer recently, and we came up with an idea of perhaps we could continue to offer classes, sort of, we would call it remedial tree training for folks that, are new to the industry, if you want to call it that. If you've been cited or your job's been stopped by a municipal inspector, potentially you could be fined, I suppose, and or you could be sent to UF-IFAS Extension to participate in, let's say, I'm going to throw this out there, a 3-hour class, which if you successfully complete it, you would be issued some type of a certificate that says you completed it. And it would emphasize such things as, tree pruning best practices, what's a proper cut, what's not a proper cut, how to learn to recognize and avoid tree abuse, and also some training on safety, to safety best practices. Again, my own community out in Weston, just last week, I pulled a maintenance worker off of a ladder. He was up dropping sizable limbs in the backyard on a home which had a big live oak in the back, on a chain, up on a ladder with a chainsaw, no personal protective equipment. The grounds guy lied to me about the license. We're gonna have our hands full. And so my question is to you city folks, what is your plan gonna be? I think we need to talk about that.
Well, Mike, we've been down, this is William again, we've been down this road before. We're not reinventing this catastrophe. It was that way prior, and I'm glad to say a number of years ago when we started being able to go after the tree trimmers who had a license, it was a much more fair and level playing field, because unfortunately, if somebody did tree abuse, as Roy's saying, the city then goes by and knocks on the door and is unloading on the resident, which cities don't like to do. We're there to help our residents, not to abuse them. And all they say is, hey, somebody knocked on my door and for a cash price said they would trim the tree. And I said, sure, assuming they're a professional, because they had a chainsaw and they had a card that says they're a professional and they're a part-time brain surgeon. And they said, okay, let's go ahead and let them start trimming. And then the city comes in, even we could see the tail lights of the people going away. We come in and we're the bad guys knocking on the door saying, resident, now you're going to have to mitigate that tree, possibly remove that tree, pay a permit fee, do all these things. It didn't work. So we were very glad when we were able to say, you're right. There was a wrong done to you by this company that was, quote, professional, and the county has the ability to go after their license. So that is going away. And Mike, that's, as you know, and most all the other inspectors, I don't speak for them, I only speak for myself, but most all the other inspectors, I think we'll see the same thing. It's not going to work, and it's going to be more of a burden on the residents.
Why does it have to be the burden of the resident? Why can't you go after the perpetrator? I mean, they're just going to keep doing it, just at different addresses.
What are we going to go after them, Mike? The tree is abused. It's the rule doesn't say the abuser. I mean, what are we going to take away from them? The abused tree is
I know the county have that, the environmental section where, if the tree is, abused, then, I know that there's that other department with Peter Burke and
Peter's on the call today.
Yeah, so I know that, they tend to find the company that commit these violations or abuse. So I don't know if they want to chime in and explain. I know that if the cities have their own tree preservation program, then they kind of usually leave it up to them to remedy that. But if they don't have their own tree preservation program, there is usually that avenue.
We may be able to do, if Peter wants to chime in, just indicate on the chat bar, Peter, and we will bring you in. But Roy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Peter doesn't have any ability to go after the company that does the abuse, correct?
I think they can, if I'm not mistaken. I think they can find the company. I think it's more environmentally from that side.
Peter Burke. Roy, good. Peter has said he can chime in, so we are going to make him a co-host. And welcome Mr. Burke to the hot seat. We don't ever see enough of Peter. So we bring him in, we try to abuse him enough, then we just don't see him for a couple of years.
All right, I'm speaking, started my video too, okay.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Very well,
Yeah.
Happy New Year. But before we jump on you, Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year to you. I was going to say the county goes after not only the property owner, but the company as well. So we've been doing that since I started here. So we go after the company as well. Sometimes it's hard to chase down these companies. We got one that works out of Palm Beach County right now that we're going after, and they're saying, well, we're just not going to work in Broward County again. So, but we do go after the tree companies as well. Obviously, it'll be more difficult not having a tree trimmer licensing program, but we don't plan on changing that. And I should also offer that I would think Broward was the only county with a tree trimmer licensing program, right? So we'll be like any other county, really. We'll just be trying to do our best.
Thank you, Peter. So I guess, and I know most of you guys are muted, so you're going to be relegated to the chat room to solicit your comments. But I guess, would it be helpful to be able, and can you, Sharon, maybe you can chime in here if William will allow it. You had talked about a stipulated settlement agreement that you in Coconut Creek sometimes work out with folks that have used trees that could potentially require somebody to come to a remedial pruning class. Do you all want to have that as an option? I mean, I got plenty of work to do here. I can work on water quality. I can work on climate change. I can work on a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't have to be tree pruning education, but I feel very strongly about this, and I want to be useful to you guys, and to get not only the folks that work the commercial side in your cities, but your own municipal crews. We can work on training them. I just need some direction. I need some guidance as I formulate a plan to move forward, and that's why I'm bringing this whole issue up to you today.
Roy, I guess I'll head this towards you, or maybe Peter. I don't know who's got that answer, but I see where Mark Williams chimed in. He said Fort Lauderdale is going to potentially change their code at the next opportunity to require tree trimming on public property to be performed only by a certified arborist or an ASCA consulting arborist. Is that would not violate any of the, I know you're not an attorney, Roy. I'm not trying to put you on too bad of a seat, but that would be okay. You would not have a problem with it?
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's they're just saying that they want the specific type of certification, performing services on their certain trees.
Okay.
Like right now, even like for instance, if there was a tree that, let's say that someone abused and it needs to be remediated, we wouldn't allow a Class B tree trimmer to be to do that work. It would have to be a licensed arborist.
Okay.
I see where Quatisha has put in the chat a comment about the remedial training should include the property owner as well as the perpetrator of the tree abuse. And that's certainly, I think, a very reasonable and laudable goal. Whether we could actually make that happen, I don't know, but we certainly have capability of doing outreach in a variety of ways. I know also that there has been an initiative by the Florida chapter of the ISA to try to make a statewide arborist certification requirement. And last I'd heard, I don't know, maybe somebody who's more affiliated with the Florida chapter than I at the moment could chime in here, but I think that's kind of dead on arrival in the climate that we're in right now, which is kind of anti-regulatory. Contact me, let me know your thoughts about this issue, please. We have some time to get a remedial training program together that would meet the needs of people that have been cited by a city or, told to stop work or fined or brought before a special master or whatever. I want to make this, helpful to them, not a punishment, but hopefully, stimulate them to do better work and to know, that best practices do matter. I mean, I think we're all about sustainable urban tree canopy, and God knows between climate change and stronger storms, we certainly need it. And I also wanted to throw in the fact I had a conversation yesterday with Ed Gilman's successor, Dr. Ryan Klein, and Ryan is very motivated to help us to produce a curriculum that's, top notch. And, he's a great resource. I just want to mention anecdotally, he's bringing back the Great Southern Tree Conference. Wade Collum, I know you were a regular at that, possibly you, Sandy Benton. I know you're in the house today. He's also continuing Dr. Gilman's website. He's added to it. He's actually got videos from Dr. Gilman's classes on a whole variety of topics that have been added. So that is up and running, and you know, I just find him to be a real workable kind of player, and it's going to be a big help to us, just like Dr. Ed was all of those years. So,
Mike, I want to address a question to Tiffany Turnquist. Hi, Tiffany. Asked the question, and that was that don't most municipalities require a permit to trim trees? Fortunately, no. There's only two: the city of Sunrise and the city of Plantation are the only two that require that permit. And possibly that's something other cities may want to think about, because what it does, we always told the people that are doing the tree trimming, it helps level the playing field. Because if not, as you cited, Mike, it can be any two guys in a pickup truck and a chainsaw can go out and be trimming. What it does is then it puts the city behind the 8 ball, because we would love to say we want them to do it right, but we don't know until it's done wrong. So the city comes on after the tree is hat racked or after it's been abused, and there is no wood glue to put it back together. So we're already at that fine and problem stage. A permit does help indeed open that up to say if a permit is required, even if they do not require the certification of either being an arborist or the Broward County tree trimming, at least we have an opportunity to know they're going to be trimming trees. And you can send your landscape inspector or whomever out before they even start, because you might have some idea ahead of time that they don't know what they're doing, or it's going to be unsafe, or it's going to be a poor job, so that you avoid the problem, and obviously avoiding it's always better. So in short, Tiffany, no, there's only 2 cities in Broward County that require a permit, but that may be a good additive.
There's a lot of comments in the chat, and I would like to ask if could Sharon Vollmer speak for a moment?
Yes, let me pass that over. Sharon Vollmer.
Sharon is under S, so it's, I gotta be close.
Sharon Vollmer with Coconut Creek.
There she. There, oh, there she is.
Sharon, you are being made a
Oh, am I the
co-host.
right person? Okay,
Co-host.
I just making sure I had the right person. Okay. Let's make sure.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can't
Okay.
see you, but we can hear you.
That's okay. That's good. That's the way I like it. We have at the city of Coconut Creek for many years now have been entering into these, what Mike already spoke about, stipulated settlement agreements. When we encounter a tree trimmer on site that has improperly pruned and they don't have a tree trimmer's license, of course, we would send that to Broward County. But even if they did have a Broward County tree trimmer's license, we would sometimes, actually was quite often, we would settle the case. We would settle the fine prior to the special magistrate hearing through a stipulated settlement agreement. Part of the stipulations were that in lieu of a full fine amount, we would reduce the fine amount to hold a tree care class on site with the crew, property management, and ownership. And we could do it in 20 to 30 minutes on site, walk around, look at palms, look at trees, look at bad cuts. And it was pretty successful, and we're still doing it because we've never had a repeat violation from an offender after that class. So also they would have the fine would go up the next time if they did, and they were under 5-year monitoring. So they would have a repeat violation status attached to them for the next 5 years. And so far that's been pretty successful. So it's something you guys can look at in the interim. Mike and I talked about it, and he wanted me to mention it.
Excellent, excellent. I think that's a great idea. So, you know, and so I guess I just think we need to think outside the box here a little bit about, you know, what this is going to be like, and what possible tools can we bring to the situation to kind of make it better. And I think what you just described, Sharon, was excellent. As I said, you know, when we can perhaps provide some curriculum material that would enable the cities to be able to do some of this on site, in situations where you all wanted to send folks to us for either a Zoom class or an in-person class, we can do that. You know, I'm open to suggestions, and we've got a few months here before the sky falls. that was the purpose of bringing this up today to you all, to kind of get the ball rolling, get you thinking, and get some ideas out there in terms of how we're going to deal with this in a hopefully a constructive way. Wade, you had asked a comment about me being a point of contact for the municipalities. Of course, certainly. I mean, that's what UF-IFAS extension is supposed to be about. It's for you guys to utilize us so we can come together and solve our problems. I'm sure there's a lot of other thoughts and comments. William, all of these comments that have come in that are in the chat, will those be recorded so we can go through them when we have a little more time?
I'm pretty sure I can extract it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the chat is saved for everything, so yes.
Because there's some really good stuff here, and I know we're under a time limit, which I think probably I've already exceeded, but I really appreciate those of you that did chime in today and have sent chat comments and whatnot. And I'm going to, at this point, thank Roy and Sharon and Peter, and I guess I'll give it back to you, William.
All right, well, hang in there for a moment or two, Mike, because there's a couple more things we want to answer.
Okay.
Wade, to address yours. Sunrise is currently, and as of January 10th, my last day, was still requiring pruning permits, because one of the things we check for, Wade, as well, is a business license, an occupational license. And that opens it up because, as you all know, and anybody's an arborist or anybody that's in the business, you need a different level of workman's comp. In other words, workman's comp goes by category. So if you're you're mowing grass, that's one workman's comp. I forget what they call it, code, but there's another name for it. And then once you get 6 feet off the ground, workman's comp skyrockets, because obviously there's more danger in being 6 feet off the ground. And tree trimming certainly fits into that. I think we'll see a flush of people, as Mike's pointed out several times, people that are handymen or whatever the case is, doing tree trimming. We're going to unfortunately probably have a lot more injuries, and it's already, I forget where it ranks, but tree trimming is I know it's within the top 10 of workman's comp categories. We're going to see a lot more injuries out there. But in addition, the ability for a city to require a permit says that those people are properly licensed and insured. And if they're not, we always tell the homeowners what can happen if you hire somebody who isn't, and they drop that tree on your house. They're just going to get back in their pickup truck and drive away. And now you have two problems. You have a tree on your house and a tree that's not cut. Or God forbid, if they hurt themselves on your property and they are not insured, it can fall against your homeowner's insurance. So there's a lot of negative things that can happen. That, again, I think the requirement by a city for a tree trimming permit is a wise thing and can happen to head off a lot of them.
And that's something you can still get away with?
I wouldn't use the term "get away with," Mike, but yes, we can require under the current statute, unless things change. And Roy, that was going to be my question to you. And again, I know you're not responsible for other counties, but this was Broward County's interpretation of a statute that came down from the state. So they looked at what might be impacted and said tree trimming is one that's impacted, propane hauling and all is impacted. Have they pretty much been the same ones in other counties? I know they didn't have the tree trimming, but pretty much the same list, propane, et cetera, all those have been equally impacted throughout the counties?
Yes, throughout the state, we've been communicating with like Miami-Dade, Palm Beach. Yeah, there is some counties that, just totally did away with their licensing program because, it impacted them, really hard. They just say, just dismantle it now. So yeah, it's not just Broward.
I have a feeling there are going to be a lot of unintended consequences as a result of this action. And I guess I question why the legislature took it upon themselves to consider tree trimming something that doesn't require a license, because as we know, not only is it a pretty hazardous occupation, when it's not done correctly, there are also a lot of hazards and negatives that can come into play. So, it is what it is. I want to also just say, though, that, having talked with numerous folks over the years, I think Broward has earned the distinction of having a better pruned canopy than most of our neighboring sister counties. And I want to say, and Peter, you can chime in here again too if you feel like it, but I think part of that has been due to the fact we've done a lot of training for 20 years and more than 15,000 certifications through this office. Hundreds of companies that have, come and gotten people trained, and there's been some spillover effect with the consumers too. And I think it all kind of adds up to, a better, healthier canopy, which is what the intent of the ordinance was when it was enacted back in the fall of 2000. So maybe we've come full circle. I don't know, but I guess at this point, we can leave it at that. I'm certainly available for ongoing discussions and want to be engaged in dealing with you all on this on a good constructive basis.
Mike, one last one, and I mentioned it to you prior, not knowing where some of this is going to go. If it works out where you're able to have this remedial action where when a tree is abused, somehow either the magistrate or the city can require the company to take a training, take a class to gain the knowledge so they won't do it again, that would be wonderful. If that doesn't get off the ground, one of the things, and I'm saying this to the general membership that I had mentioned to Mike, possibly LIAF would look to offering a license for tree trimming. Now, it's not, your cities couldn't require, I don't know if cities could require it or not. It would not be required by anybody. It would just be like FNGLA offers several different degrees of training to say you are an LIF certified tree trimmer. I don't know where it would fit in. We certainly have you, Mike. You have all the programs put together. It would be a very short, easy join to do. I don't know if that would fill that void or not. What's your opinion on that, Mike?
I don't know, William. I mean, I think we need to formulate a plan. I would, selfishly like to retain control or certainly the purview of doing tree trimmer education, but I recognize at the same time that this is just good practical information that anybody really technically could share or conduct. So, we can have discussions about that. I guess at this point, I was mostly interested in finding out if the cities felt that having some kind of a remedial program that they could send people to, in fact, had merit and would be desirable. So maybe that's the first question to answer. And then as we design the program, we can talk about who the players are going to be.
I just wanted to throw it out there because we're same thing, Mike. There's been a lot of education that's gone on all the way from tree trimmer 1, just standing up in front of people and saying palms don't trim above 9 3. I mean, it just has to go on out there. If they don't hear it from a reputable place like a governmental organization that doesn't have a dog in the race, then where are they going to hear it from? They may never hear it. They may, therefore, it becomes abusive, and it's a shame. So we appreciate what you've done all these years, and I would hope there's something like a phoenix that you can arise from this fire again. And Roy, we know it is not the county had to make that call, but it was based on a state statute, not that the county is just saying, hey, we think it could become the Wild West again.
Yeah, one of the things that they did put into that ordinance also is that no new license could be created.
Oh, wow.
By the county.
Correct.
Well, we're talking about a training certificate.
I hear what I hear what you're saying. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate it very much, Roy. Thank you for coming on. Peter, thank you for chiming in. Sharon as well. And Michael, thank you.
William, if I could just make one more comment. I wanted everybody to know that I am on the PALM team with UF-IFAS. We have 3 new PALM specialists working here on our campus in Davie. And we are going to be going around the state putting on some trainings regarding palms. And I'm going to be handling palm grading. I've been getting a good education on the yet to be released new palm grades and standards, which should be coming out this spring, along with the new grade and standards for hardwood trees. So we're going to be offering some training in that end of things, and we'll incorporate that into our LIAF certification program. So we're not going to neglect palms. We're going to be training people with regard to that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so Richard, if you want to put us back on and close those two off. And the next portion we have feeds very well into a request by Laura Tooley. And that is to discuss the potential changes to statute 163045. So good, let poor Roy go.
Yeah, so he's not used to doing this from here.
No, we're letting you go, Roy, so everybody's not staring at you. There we go.
Okay.
Okay. As Laura pointed out, there are some potential changes to 163045, which is the Florida statute that passed 2 years ago that opened up a lot of this, and that is the tree trimming ordinance as we all know it. In the past 2 years, there have been attempts to modify that, to give it some direction. Last year, it failed, it died. This year, it's moving a little bit further. It seems to be doing a slight bit better, so I'm going to try and do that. Pardon me, I'm going to have to turn my back to y'all or bring this up here, but I will give you an update on 163045 and where we are basically. The information I have came from the Florida local environmental resource agencies. And it is a group, and you can Google this as we do, FLERA, and you'll see it on there. And it is a volunteer association, much like LIAF, and they are tracking all the different environmental issues that are ongoing for the state legislature this year. And I was very happy the number in the divisions and all the different areas that they are tracking, and specifically one of them being 163045. So I reached out to the group prior to, again, when I was still with the city of Sunrise. So unfortunately, all that correspondence was kind of lost. So they were going to be here today, and I'm hoping they're going to be here next month to do a more in-depth dive of this, of what the proposed changes are. But if you look at that website, it'll tell you a great deal of what's going on. And I'm going to go back through the actual bill that is out there, and it is it's now a combined bill, but there's Senate Bill 518, and there's a House bill out there as well. And what they look to do, it's not very long, so I will read it to you. Let's see, 115, 120. It says in very small print, an act relating to the private property rights to prune, trim, remove trees, amending 163045 Florida statute defining terms, revising the conditions under which a local government may not require notice, application, approval, permit, fee, or mitigation for the pruning, trimming, or removal of a tree on residential property, specifying when the tree poses an unacceptable risk, providing an effective date. So it now says, so this part is underlined, which means it's a proposed part of the change. For purpose of this section, the terms documentation means an on-site assessment performed in accordance with the tree risk assessment procedures outlined in Best Management Practices Tree Risk Assessment, 2nd edition, 2017, by an arborist certified by ISA or a Florida licensed landscape architect, and signed by the certified arborist or landscape architect. B, still underlined, residential property, in quotes, means a single family detached building located on a lot that is actively used for single family residential purposes, and that is either a conforming use or legally recognized non-conforming use in accordance with the local jurisdiction's applicable land development regulations. Further down, I'm going to read you the other change. It talks about, so this is not changed. So a local government may not require a notice, application, approval, permit, fee, or mitigation for the pruning, trimming, or removal of tree on residential property if the property owner possesses, that's a change, documentation from an arborist certified by ISA or a Florida licensed landscape architect that the tree, now this is a change, poses an unacceptable risk where they are striking presents a danger to persons or property, This is underlined, so it's a change. A tree possesses an unacceptable risk if removal is the only means of practically mitigating its risk below moderate, as determined by the tree risk assessment procedure outlined in the best management practices tree risk assessment. These are very positive kind of potential statements. Currently, that rule, that law, I can go back. It has, as I said, a related bill in the House. There was an amendment. There has been one vote on it so far, and that was by the Community Affairs, and it passed. When I was reading earlier, there were 7 yes and 0 no's. So at this point, it is proceeding forward. It may get, derailed at any given time. Can I have that mouse?
Oh, sorry.
It may get derailed at any given time, but there is currently those changes in the makings. And I thought you all should want to know, would be interested to know about that. I've offered the association, I talked about the Florida Environmental Association, in addition to asking them to address you all, I've said, I think this is something our association would be interested in backing, because we need better definition of exactly what is a danger, or, because all trees potentially are dangerous. We've gone through this. What is defined as single family? Is that something that is in the zoning code that would be single family, et cetera, et cetera? So I think some of this does indeed start to address those questions. I believe we, for the most part, would like to see this passed and enacted so that we get a better understanding of the rule of what's going to happen with 163045. We'll look in the chat real quick, catch my breath. Good. I see Mark says that maybe the track qualification should be required, and again, we all kind of happen to agree with that, because as it currently stands, it's open season on the trees out there. I would also say, and I know that not the LIAF members and not just the ISA members, but there are a tremendous amount of people that have been taking advantage of this rule, of this law. I know lots of people in other cities, in addition to the city of Sunrise that I was familiar with, have had numerous trees removed, citing that they have, quote, the letter. I will tell you, in the positive end, the city of Sunrise, we had the finding via the magistrate 2 months ago that he ruled common area was not going to be covered by 163045, that common area was not considered single family. Under the state statute, that could certainly be challenged. The time for that particular case to have been challenged via the magistrate's ruling for the city of Sunrise has passed, but other cities that are looking, or other counties that are looking to pass this same kind of idea, and there are others, may be challenged. And at some point, perhaps that's what we need, is to have it get to the courts and get some final jurisdiction on it, and get some good terminology, so that we all know, as arborists, we know as city workers, what and where we can draw the line. So Laura, I hope that answers your question. Indeed, there is update. I would ask that anybody that wants to see it move forward, take a look at that website I alluded. I'll ask Richard to put it on the home page and speak out again in favor of having this passed, in hopes that we can get some better definitions on the ruling of 163045. And I think that's to see. Laura said there's still no mechanism provided as to how or if city may ascertain such documentation. Again, I can only speak for what was the city of Sunrise when I was there. That was found by the city attorney, that indeed the homeowner that was using 163045 had to present, when asked, that letter from could make sure that it was covered, that was what the tree that was being removed was documented, saying, yes, this arborist looked at this tree and this tree could go, not just that any tree on the property could go. So there are some ways out there, and there are some baby steps being made. There are a whole lot more trees that are being lost wholesale due to it than protected by it. But until we get it off the books, that's all we can really do. Any other things, please put them under the chat or chime in if you want to speak, and I will ask Richard to put you in there. Good. Outside of that, there's the tractor bills on the from Laura. Thank you, from the Florida Senate. One last one on this. There are some associations that are looking to remove some trees. I am working with an association that's looking to remove a large number of trees, and as a consultant, and we're trying to get an interpretation from not Broward County, but from a county as far as where they are going to draw the rule. And currently, they are saying pretty much the same thing that the city of Sunrise is saying, and that is trees that are planted, in this case, in a swale area of a homeowner association, they are not going to consider as covered under 163045. So as that develops, I'll keep you abreast of it and let you know. We'll see. The more cities, the more counties that make those kind of calls will make it easier for all of us to make choices and when things have been done correctly, and when we can step in and do some enforcement. Okay, seeing, Bill, good. Seeing no other questions on there, I want to thank you all. First of all, again, Happy New Year. I want to thank you all for attending. It's super important that we have good numbers like we did today, because we represent the strength of not just Broward County, but of the green industry down here. And we want to hear from all of you. We want to we want to continue to provide the best education for you, and the best education comes when we've got good participation from our members. One last, and you'll hear it from me again. Please remember, it is a new year. I know Diana's out there. It's time to pay your dues again. For those of you that are certified, in order to maintain your certification through LIAF, you have to be a member in good standing, which means you have to pay your dues and obtain your CEUs. And I see the CEUs that are, a question just popped up about CEUs, and Richard's here, so we'll keep him on the hot seat. Yes, you should be able to go to the LIAF website and enter your name and find your information, see how current you are. And thank you to Terrell and Richard and Diana and an outside bookkeeper that are helping to keep all those up to date. Please, if anything changes, if you change your email address, you change your job, whatever the case is, add us on the list of people you notify so that we can make sure that you are properly able to get in touch with, so we can keep you notified of meetings, et cetera, et cetera.
And just as I've said for years now to everybody, try to remember, you probably want to use your personal email address, not a business email address, because you never know when you're going to change jobs. So make it easier on yourself, make it easier on us, and use a personal email address, please.
Yeah, we try not to abuse it. They're not worth much on the open market, so we don't sell them to anybody. Your credit card is hardly worth anything on the open market anymore. So that's it. Diana Ramirez, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. I am enjoying retirement very much. I would encourage everyone that as soon as you can financially do it, retire. It's great. It's great. All right, seeing no other comments, we're set for, of course, the fourth Thursday of next month as well, short month of February, but we hope to see you all here. Please stay safe, and we will talk to you soon. If you have any questions or comments, you can send it through the LIAF website, or I gave you my personal email address as well. Thank you all. Have a great day.